The sleek glass doors of Sterling and Beckett Financial reflected the morning sun as Maya Thompson took a deep breath, straightened her blazer, and stepped inside. She had worked hard for this moment, graduating top of her class, completing prestigious internships, and spending countless hours perfecting her resume. This job interview wasn't just another step in her career, it was an opportunity to prove herself in an industry where she knew she had to work twice as hard to be taken seriously. The receptionist, a young blonde woman with a bright smile, greeted her warmly. "Good morning, you must be Maya. Mr. Reynolds will see you now." Maya nodded, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. She followed the woman through the pristine, high-rise office, the sound of clicking keyboards and ringing phones filling the air. The company was one of the top financial firms in the city. Landing a job here could set her up for life. Inside the office, Richard Reynolds, the hiring manager, leaned back in his leather chair, glancing at Maya as she walked in. He was a middle-aged man with slicked-back salt-and-pepper hair, dressed in an expensive suit. His expression was polite, but there was something in his eyes, something calculating. Maya extended her hand with a confident smile. "Good morning, Mr. Reynolds. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me." Richard hesitated for half a second before shaking her hand. "Of course. Please, take a seat." The interview began smoothly. Maya answered every question with precision and poise. She spoke about her experience at a top financial firm during her internship, her ability to analyze market trends, and her passion for economic development. Richard nodded along, but something about his demeanor felt off. He barely looked at her resume, cutting her off when she spoke and shifting uncomfortably in his chair. Then he leaned forward, folding his hands together. "You're very impressive, Maya," he said, but his tone lacked enthusiasm. "Your credentials are strong, and I can tell you're ambitious. However," Maya braced herself, "I'm afraid you might not be the right fit for our company culture." Her stomach sank. "I'd love to hear more about that. What specifically makes you think that?" Richard cleared his throat. "Well, Sterling and Beckett has a certain clientele. Our clients expect a particular image. They like familiarity, consistency." He forced a smile. "It's nothing personal, of course." Maya knew exactly what that meant. She had been the only black woman in the waiting area. The other candidates, 3 men and 1 woman, had all been white. She had seen this before. She had felt this before. She straightened her posture. "With all due respect, Mr. Reynolds, I believe my skills and experience align perfectly with the role. I'm more than capable of handling your clientele." Richard sighed, as if this conversation was tiring him. "Maya, you're clearly talented. I have no doubt you'll find success elsewhere. But we're looking for someone who fits in with our team dynamics." Her fingers curled into fists under the table. "I understand," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Thank you for your time." As she stood to leave, Richard barely looked up from his desk. "Best of luck, Miss Thompson." Walking out of the office, Maya felt the sting of humiliation. She had known going in that she'd face challenges in this industry, but knowing it and experiencing it firsthand were 2 different things. She had been rejected, not because of her skills, not because she wasn't qualified, but because of who she was. What Richard Reynolds didn't know was that karma had a way of coming full circle, and soon he would learn that lesson the hard way. Days turned into weeks, and Maya channeled her frustration into something productive. She refused to let one racist hiring manager define her future. She sent out more applications, networked aggressively, and kept pushing forward. Then, one day, an unexpected email landed in her inbox. Subject: Exciting opportunity. Thompson and Company. Maya's heart skipped a beat. The message was from David Lawson, a respected leader in the finance industry and the CEO of Thompson and Company, one of the fastest-growing financial firms in the country. "Maya, I came across your resume through a mutual connection. Your background is impressive, and I'd love to discuss a potential leadership role at Thompson and Company." We're looking for a top talent, and I believe you could be a great fit. Let's set up a meeting soon." Best, David Lawson Maya could barely believe her eyes. A leadership role? She had been applying for entry-level positions, and here was a CEO reaching out to her directly. She didn't hesitate to respond. Within a few days, she was sitting in a modern office, looking out at the city skyline, across from David Lawson himself, a sharp, charismatic black man who had built his company from the ground up. "Your resume speaks for itself," David said with a smile. "But what really caught my attention were the recommendations from some of your previous mentors. They say you're hardworking, determined, and an absolute force in this industry. That's exactly what we need." Maya felt a surge of pride. "I appreciate that, Mr. Lawson. Call me David," he said with a chuckle. "Now, tell me, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" She took a deep breath, no longer second-guessing herself. "I want to be in a position where I can make real change. I want to help companies understand that diversity isn't just a checkbox, it's an asset. I want to prove that talent comes in all forms, and I want to mentor young professionals who might not always get the same opportunities." David leaned back in his chair, nodding. "That's exactly the mindset we need at Thompson and Company." He slid a folder across the table. "This is our offer. Take a look and let me know what you think." Maya opened it, her eyes widening. Not only was the salary double what she had been offered at other firms, but the title, Senior Financial Strategist, was more than she had hoped for. "This," she started, trying to find the right words. "This is incredible." David smiled. "We believe in hiring people based on talent, not appearance. And we invest in the right people. So, what do you say?" Maya didn't need time to think. "I'm in." Meanwhile, at Sterling and Beckett, Richard Reynolds leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Things weren't going well. Since rejecting Maya, Sterling and Beckett had made a string of bad hiring decisions, bringing in candidates who fit the company culture, but lacked the skills to drive real results. Clients had started complaining, profits were dipping, and worst of all, the firm had just lost one of their biggest accounts to a competitor. Richard's assistant knocked and entered. "Sir, you should see this." She handed him her tablet. On the screen was a headline, "Thompson and Company makes a power move, hires industry rising star, Maya Thompson as senior financial strategist." Richard's stomach dropped. Maya Thompson, the same woman he had turned away, because she didn't fit in. And now she wasn't just succeeding. She was thriving at a competing firm, the very firm that had just stolen one of their largest clients. His hands clenched into fists. "Unbelievable," he muttered. But it wasn't over yet. Karma was just getting started. Richard Reynolds had always been a confident man. He believed he understood the industry better than anyone, and for years Sterling and Beckett had thrived under his leadership. But now, everything was falling apart. It wasn't just the loss of one major client, more were following. The reason? Maya Thompson. Word had spread quickly about her hiring at Thompson and Company. Clients who had once worked with her, or simply admired her drive, started shifting their business to her new firm. They didn't forget how she had been overlooked and how Thompson and Company had seen her worth. Richard watched in frustration as month after month his company's reputation crumbled. One day, in the middle of a tense board meeting, his worst fear came true. His assistant rushed in, looking pale. "Sir, we lost another one." Richard gritted his teeth. "Which client this time?" She hesitated. "Midland Investment Group." The room went silent. Midland Investment was Sterling and Beckett's biggest client, the one that had kept them afloat, even as their numbers declined. "To who?" Richard asked, but he already knew the answer. His assistant swallowed. "Thompson and Company." Richard slammed his fist on the table. "Unbelievable. That company is poaching our clients." "They're not poaching," one of the board members interrupted. "They're just better than us." Richard shot him a glare. "Excuse me." The man, one of the senior partners, leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. We had the chance to hire Maya Thompson. We didn't. You didn't. Because she didn't fit in. He shook his head. And now she's outperforming us. You did this to yourself. Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Richard felt something unfamiliar creeping into his chest. Regret. For the first time, he wondered, what if he had hired Maya? Would Sterling and Beckett still be losing everything? But karma wasn't done with him yet. A week later, Richard's assistant walked into his office, looking more nervous than usual. "Sir, there's someone here to see you." "I'm not in the mood for visitors," he snapped. The assistant hesitated. "It's David Lawson." Richard's stomach dropped. David Lawson, the CEO of Thompson and Company. The man who had hired Maya. Richard forced himself to stay composed. "Send him in." David walked in with his usual confident stride, taking a seat without waiting for an invitation. Richard tried to sound casual. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" David smirked. "I'll keep this short. We both know your firm is struggling, and since you lost Midland Investment, you're barely keeping things together." Richard clenched his jaw. He hated hearing the truth from another CEO. David continued, "I wanted to give you a heads up before the news breaks. Thompson and Company is officially acquiring Sterling and Beckett." Richard's heart stopped. "You... what?" he whispered. David leaned forward, his voice calm but powerful. "We're buying your company. The deal has already been finalized. You can read the details, but let me summarize it for you. Your leadership is over. The board has agreed to remove you as managing partner, effective immediately." Richard felt cold sweat forming on his forehead. "You can't do this." David smirked. "Oh, I can. And I did." He stood up and adjusted his suit. "And here's the best part, your replacement. It's someone who does belong in this industry. Someone you overlooked." Richard's chest tightened as realization hit him. Maya. Before he could respond, the office door opened, and there she was. Maya Thompson stepped inside, dressed in an elegant blazer, her confidence radiating. For a moment, Richard couldn't speak. Maya smiled, but there was no bitterness in her expression, only satisfaction. "Hello, Richard," she said smoothly. "Looks like we'll be working together. Well, more like I'll be running things now." David clapped a hand on Richard's shoulder. "Tough break, huh? Maybe next time you'll judge people by their skills instead of their skin color." And with that, he and Maya walked out, leaving Richard Reynolds behind, drowning in the consequences of his own prejudice. If you loved this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.